Let's call the meeting to order, please. You want to take the roll? Are we all set?
I was just making sure we
This
were recording.
conference will now
Okay,
be
good.
recorded.
Mayor Zakowski,
Here.
Alderman Kittle,
Here.
Alderman Vries,
Here.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Here.
Alderman Gartner,
Here.
Alderman Volkert.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. Motion to adopt the agenda as proposed.
That motion.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. There's no public comments tonight. Nobody signed up. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
I'd like to say that we did get a $1,000 donation for the Sather Nature Center from the town of Richmond. Just to let you know that. And
For the
discussion-
boardwalks. For the boardwalks.
Boardwalk, yeah,
Yep.
at the Sather Nature Center.
Yes.
I have a couple of things before we go to the vote. Disappointed not to see an airport. SOAR declaration of surplus property. Buildings being torn down and just reselling, they're just.
Nope. Airport Commission owns kind of a joint ownership with the city. I guess it's the city's property. That's why we have to declare it as surplus, I think.
That worked, no.
Yeah, so the buildings are city property. There's been discussions in the past few years about seeing if there's any resale value in the barn wood itself. That was when the barn was still standing. At this point, the barn has been caving in now the last couple of years. The declaration of surplus property tonight allows us to then really, from this point, determine what the best solution would be for that building. So that would still have to come back to the council, whether that's auctioning it off, whether it's taking proposals, whether it's hiring someone to actually take the wood off. There's also an old farmhouse on the property, which has been used in recent years by the SWAT team. Now, if that building were to be raised, there would actually have to be asbestos abatement completed before there could be anything else done. But the first step would be declaring it surplus property. It is city property, so it has to come to the city council.
That house is not inhabitable
It hasn't been used for training recently, and in conversations with the airport manager, thought that as we look into getting into the first quarter of 2024 to put a plan together of what to do with any of the buildings that are on the site. The barn more so just from a safety standpoint, that you've got a building caving in and high school students not too far away, and then even the old single-family home as well. I believe over the years has had some graffiti and people trying to break into it as well. So to say, even from a liability standpoint, what is our plan? Otherwise, those buildings are going to just continue to deteriorate. Correct, it's city property.
This has to come back to the council anyways, right?
It would, yes.
Okay, good. Further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. First item under new business, appointment District 6 Alderperson. Noah?
Yeah, I can just briefly introduce this topic. Carrie Kraft had resigned recently, and staff have, over the last 2 weeks, have been advertising for the vacancy. We have 2 applicants who have expressed interest in serving the remaining about 4 months or so of that term. The position would be up again on the ballot in April of 2024. So it's up to the city council to appoint an individual if they so choose to serve the the remaining 4 months for that position. And in terms of our notification process, staff noticed it in the newspaper. It was posted on our city website and social media. We also emailed communication out to all of our current board and commission members. So if any of them or anyone that they knew would be interested in serving. So we followed those steps per the policy that you adopted earlier this year. And this evening, we would give an opportunity if either one of the individuals would like to come up to the podium and say a few words about themselves, and if the council would like to ask any questions of either of them. You would have received a copy of their actual application forms on Friday. We just redact any personal information, so if they have a phone number or something on there. And then this evening, the council would actually vote. We do have paper ballots, I believe, should be up on the dais already. And so my thought would just be if we want to just go in the order that we received the applications. We received an application first from Ryan Shervey, and then we received a second application from Mike Mantello. So if others, if you want to have Mike come
Mike?
up just to say a few words.
Oh, I got a lot of questions. Come on up.
Well, I just want to say thank you for the consideration. I look forward, if I get chosen, to go right to work in January and representing the district which we now reside in.
I have a couple of questions. So it's been recent that you've moved there, but you kind of
Since June. Yep.
not a whole lot, but there's always things that change in the city from month to month, literally. And
Well, I think that, and I haven't had my finger hard on the pulse over the whole time of the last 6 months, but I think that it's not that there's necessarily any new. I think there's a lot of project continuation, and it's really a generalization in terms of I think you got to look at government like a giant ship. It doesn't turn on a dime, and you kind of plot a course, and that's the direction you go, making alterations and changes as situations require. I think the thing that's changed in my mind from perspective of what's important is that the economy looks really different today than it looked 6 months ago. And I think the impact to public budgets has got to be considered. And so, but I'm anxious to get back to work and feel like I can step right in.
bigger projects we've got coming down the road is
Who's that?
I thought it was. One of the, concerns we have is, the affordability of a library is something that's been talked about and needed for the last 20 project forward if it's affordable.
For sure. I think that there's kind of some big next steps we've been waiting for. Pricing. And it's interesting, I will tell you that just today, in fact, an hour and a half ago, I got a call from a contractor who's not part of even this geographic area. And this individual on the phone was just out soliciting for business. That's a drastic change from what we've seen over the last couple of years. So we saw how construction costs really had a meteoric rise during COVID. And now I think there's some downward pressure. I think the library has been talked about and talked about and talked about. I think the time is now. I think that's a good plan. But we've got to get over that last major hurdle, I think, relative to pricing and how the cost shakeout is. But it's a project that I support, and certainly I'm interested in seeing it come to fruition.
Questions?
I'm just curious, are you still a Viking fan?
You know something, Craig? I thought in all the time we've spent together that you actually knew me. I think I'm going to be sick.
Just
right now,
thought-
so
I just thought maybe.
So just excuse me. America's team is
Just
playing
thought
tonight,
maybe.
so let's not belabor this.
Okay.
In New York. There you go.
Okay.
I've got the right color of car, so I think I'm a Viking fan too.
Do you guys want to do this by a voice vote
Well,
or
thank you all.
on paper?
Thanks, Mike.
Voice, Jim, what difference does it make?
I do, as an open record or part of the policy, I need you to fill out those papers, and I have to keep those as an open record.
Okay. I have to say it's unanimous for Mike. So Mike, congratulations. You will be filling the next, about 4 months of the term. I believe now Mike has to wait 28.
Vote beginning at the January meeting, so so Mike's welcome to stay this evening, just a member of the public. He'll take his oath of office later on, and that also gives him an opportunity to review the agenda packet for our next meeting, so.
Both now or,
Nope, he'll just do that later with
I mean,
the clerk.
doesn't have to wait though.
For the oath,
Yeah.
no, nope, he'll
Okay.
just coordinate that with Michelle whenever works for you, so.
Mike? Next thing is board and commission appointments.
So we have one recommendation for a citizen appointee. This would be Troy Bowe to the Historic Preservation Commission. And then also just wanted discussion, Carrie Kraft served on, I think, 5 different boards and committees. If you wanted to make a determination this evening for which committees you'd like Mike to serve on, you could also wait until January if you'd like. So whatever the council would prefer and whatever Mike would be comfortable with.
Wait until January and then, because I don't know if Mike wants to maybe switch because there's 5 or anybody else wants to switch a little bit. So Mike can't do anything until our January meeting anyway, so. Talk to the other members here if they want to switch any committees. That's okay with you, I'd like to wait until the January.
I'd make a motion then to formally appoint Troy Bowe.
That? Any further discussion? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Motion passes. Troy Bowe is on that commission.
Someone related to these committees.
Next item is St. Croix County Highway Department presentation on County A corridor study.
So we've got a couple of guests here this evening from the St. Croix County Highway Department, and I don't know, Eric, if you want to say anything, and if you guys want to head up to the podium.
Picked it right in. Yeah, we have Robbie Krejci and Greg Haig from the St. Croix County Highway Department. They here to update it, give us a brief update on a corridor study that was recently completed for County A.
All yours.
Derek said, I'm Rob Krejci, I'm the Highway Commissioner for St. Croix County. And with me tonight is Greg Haig. Greg's our county engineer as well. So appreciate taking the time. I know Monday Night Football's on tonight, so we'll try to be brief. But I did want to give an open question and answer session. If you guys have questions, we'll be brief. We've left plenty of time, hopefully, if you have questions. If we want to just jump right to the next slide, we wanted to give a little definition of the problem areas. So I'll get into the next slide of why we did this study, but this was the actual corridor that was examined recently. So if you're all familiar with this area. So it's from State Highway 64 all the way down to New Richmond Way. County Trunk Highway A is one of our busiest county highways in this section. It is our highest volume county highway, but not necessarily in this section, but we see average daily counts here around 8,000 cars a day. It does vary in the section. quite dramatically, actually. We see the highest volume on the leg from 4th out to State Highway 64. So what we did is we took this section and we evaluated. We hired an engineering firm to help us and partner with this. We brought in a traffic expert. Between Greg and I, we do have a lot of traffic experience, but it's always good to have an outside party give an independent third-party evaluation. If we could go on to the next slide. So the purpose of the corridor study, and I will say this just from an ancillary standpoint, in my 7 years with St. Croix County, County Highway K and County Highway A have been probably my highest complaint intersection. A couple reasons for that we can get into. Some of the traffic volume, some of the growth in and around New Richmond, some of the speed on County Highway A. There's probably a number of factors that lend to that title, but this was our goals as far as the evaluation. We really wanted to take a look at present day conditions, blend that into the future. We've been, your staff has been wonderful to work with. We have a great relationship, I feel, with the city of New Richmond, and we value the partnership with your staff in identifying some of the challenges with creative homes development out there. That's part of this study as well. And part of the impetus to move this forward quickly was we're seeing some stress on County Highway A, and we can get into why we see that in a little bit, but we also wanted to identify what this roadway is, what this is going to be used for in the future, and what your goals are for the future at County Highway A. The city of New Richmond is going to be the driving force for what County Highway A is in the next 10 years. So that future conditions, as well as look at some multimodal. We worked with you guys on the multimodal path along County Highway A in the past. Accommodation of that, as well as safe pedestrian movements in along this corridor, can be challenging. So we built that in as well as just look at some of the strategies to make this a little bit more, I don't want to say viable corridor, because it's viable now, but to make the future more viable as far as accommodating all those use and doing it safely. Next slide, please. I'm not going to ask you to look at this. We wanted to give you some of the hard data that went into this presentation. So Lee Gibbs was a traffic engineer involved studying this. Lee works for a company called AECom. And part of what we look at, and the first thing we identified with Lee is we asked him to really take a close look at speed. Speed along the corridor has been a conversation that's been ongoing between the county and the city. Portions of the speed limit have always been an issue. One of the factors we look at when we set speed limits is what's called the 85th percentile speed. For those of you that aren't familiar with that, the 85th percentile speed is just 85% of the vehicles are going this speed or slower. What we like to see is an 85th percentile speed within 5 miles an hour of the speed limit. What I can tell you, depending on where you're looking along that section, there is some sections that do meet that. And then there's some sections in which we see speed, the 85th percentile speed over 50 miles an hour, closer to 55. Those are particularly challenging. And, you know, I always say this, the Institute of Traffic Engineers did a wonderful study back in the early 2000s. A very high percentage of people that are speed, they're doing so unaware of their situation. The road dictates how comfortable you are. I always say this when people discuss speed with me. Get in your car, don't look at your speedometer. Drive at the speed you feel safe and comfortable. Then look down. I'm going to bet you a lot of times you're going faster than the speed limit. And in particular along County Highway A, we don't have a lot of conflict points. We have a nice wide corridor. We have great sight lines. So you feel comfortable going a little faster than probably the speed limit allows. That's why changing the speed limit and changing a sign doesn't affect driver behavior like we always want. So we looked at a couple different factors here. And as I said, I apologize for the size of this. Some of this I knew wasn't going to, but it'll be in your packet as well. We'll turn over the full report. So you'll have access to the full report in the future. And on the far side there, you'll see the intersection crash statistics. So we pulled a 5-year history on each intersection to kind of give a perspective. A and 4th had the highest crash rate, which is at 10 crashes. What we did see is some Bs, but when you look at the injury statistics, let me back up. A K is a fatality, A is an incapacitating injury, B is a probable injury, and C and O are property damage. Well, C is a potential injury, but O is property damage. So When we evaluate intersections, a lot of times we're really looking at what's called the KAB, which is your injury crashes. Fortunately, while we've had crashes in those intersections, we haven't had the fatalities or the injury crashes. We had had some B crashes, which is unfortunate, but some of that is due to the nature of the corridor. But as a crash as a whole, this isn't out of line with what we'd expect for the amount of volume we're moving through this intersection. Now, I know that's not, if you've been in a crash in that intersection, that's not something you want to hear. But we have a number of intersections throughout the county that actually have a higher crash rate. So if you could move on to the next slide. Well, I'm done.
There you go.
So a big part of this is two-phase. The next two slides, and like I said, don't worry about the numbers on here. I just wanted to explain what a big part of this evaluation is we looked at one of the biggest challenges when you look at a corridor is your intersections. Your intersections are going to show the stress first. And I always give a good example if you're familiar with A in McCutcheon in the town of Hudson. If you drive towards Hudson on County Highway A, just outside of the city of Hudson, what we saw there is we started to see the crash rate really go up. County Highway A has about 15,000 cars a day there, and you have about 3,000 cars entering the intersection. Well, as drivers wait at that intersection longer and longer, they start to take more and more chances. And the more and more chances you take, the more and more crashes we have. So intersections are a great early indicator of stress. So what we did is we ran a current evaluation of the intersections, and we based them on what's the Wisconsin Department of Transportation rates as a level of service. Now, it's a fancy equation, but in the end, what it means is that if the level of service is A, B, C, or D, it's still a fairly functional intersection. A being the best, F being the worst. If you want to move on to the next slide, we can get into more of the details. So we did this in two scenarios. We did this for current conditions, and then we did this at 2045 based on a baseline growth, which growth in this county can be unique in that I can tell you if you put 1% growth in some counties, you would be totally unrealistic. 1% growth along your corridor might way underestimate where we're going to be. So it's hard. So a lot of our baseline calculations used historic counts with current counts, and we factored in about a 1% growth rate in a corridor. Along with some of the development looks, now that can change rapidly, especially if the 230 acres you're looking at adjacent to this corridor develops sooner than later. We're going to see some of those stresses sooner than 2045. But that's what this is based off. So both these are just turning movements. We looked at peak hourly turning movements. So if you want to move on to the next slide, and you're not going to be able to read it, but legibility isn't important here. So this is the current look at where we are. And if you scroll down, you'll see a red dot on there. That's the key. So when we evaluated for level of service, we saw a varied level of service under current conditions for peak hourly movements. And Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the southbound movement on K? Yes. So out of all the intersection movements out of A and K, A and 4th, and A and New Richmond Way, all had a level of service that would be considered acceptable for today's service level, except at A and K southbound. What we saw there is a level F for peak hourly. I don't think that's unanticipated. That's part of the reason we're doing this study, and part of the reason we're looking at potential solutions to that problem. So if we go on to the next slide, when you look at 2045, you see a lot more red. And the hard part about this corridor, and what I say is, if you have static traffic, like you have just background growth, relatively slow growth, you don't see this quickly typically. 2045, we're starting to see level of service at a lot of those intersections fail. And one thing I told the county board last month is I'm sick of chasing accidents. It's time to start preventing some. And we're taking this very seriously on how can we move some things around and try to plan a little further ahead to prevent some accidents. And I think this corridor is a great example. So now, I don't expect you to see all the data here, but we just want you to kind of get a good visual. I thought the red on the screen is a good visual of what you see, and is starting to see some failure in the intersections. want to go to the last slide. So our designer ran through a little bit of my background here. I don't believe one intersection fits all. I'm not a one intersection guy. I believe the best traffic solution to match the traffic volume for now and in the future is what you should use. If that's traffic signals, if that's a roundabout, if that's a four-way stop, I'm all for it. When we looked at this, the traffic patterns, the multimodal use, and some of the other factors tend to lend themselves to roundabouts. All three of the intersections we evaluated. We wanted to show a brief illustration of what we're examining. This is a typical single lane roundabout. Roundabouts do a couple things very well. They move traffic very well. They reduce KAB accidents, if you remember, which are injury crashes. They don't always reduce property damage crashes, but they do save lives. They also accommodate pedestrians very well. So there's some things along this corridor that would be ancillary benefits. Greg and I talked at length about the goals of this study are, one, reduce the speed of the intersection, plan for the future, all those goals we talked about. A series of roundabouts along this corridor, as well as a potential conversion to what we'd call an urban corridor. And when I say urban right now, we have a rural typical section out there. We have no curb and gutter, gravel shoulders. As I said, a big wide road that people feel very comfortable driving pretty fast on. Now, we do have to maintain traffic out there. This County Highway A is made to carry traffic, and it is one of the highest volume roads in and around New Richmond. We need to maintain that, but can we do it and still reduce the speed? I think we can, but it's gonna have to take some planning along intersections, and Greg and I's discussion would be that in the future, I wouldn't be shocked to see 3 roundabouts along this location. One at A and K, one at A and 4th, and one at A and New Richmond Way. And that'll have some benefits both for traffic as well as pedestrians, and ultimately lead to good traffic outcomes in which we can push a lot of volume through County Highway A, and we can do so safely. And I also think long-term, it prevents some speed reduction benefits that we don't see right now.
What's your idea of long-term?
That's a great question. So we are also kicking off what's called, St. Clair County was very fortunate. We were, with support of the city of New Richmond again, we applied for what's called a Safe Streets and Highways for All grant. We are right now doing we're gonna just kick off an entire county road safety plan. That also includes streets in and around city of New Richmond. So your city streets will be evaluated, maybe not every single city street, but your high volume city streets will be evaluated as part of that as well. And we're gonna start drawing some urgency to certain intersections. I can tell you, we just led an intersection through the DOT, the A and McCutcheon roundabout near Hudson. Our roundabout costs are gonna come in right around 1.3 million. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of resources. So now we have to go to work and find a funding source.
Yeah.
So we have some opportunities out there though, that this could come to fruition sooner than later, if we were fortunate, and if we can do a good job working together with you and selling this project maybe at the federal level. So there's opportunity right now that we probably didn't have 10 years ago. So we're looking to capitalize on this because, as I said, I'd like to prevent accidents rather than chase them. But timing is a very difficult question. You know, $1.3 to $1.8 million roundabout essentially eats half of our construction budget for the entire county. And that very judiciously because we have other intersections. If you drive through E and I, that's Greg's favorite intersection in the county. Another intersection that you're probably going to see a roundabout in the next 5 to 7 years as well. So we're trying to incorporate this, and we certainly understand your concerns. I've had conversations with a number of you in the past. So we thought it'd be best to come directly up here and put a presentation together and give you guys a chance to answer questions. That's all I had. I took a little longer than I had hoped, but I hope you found the information valuable.
Is that without state funding now? If we get state funding on these? But that'll bring the cost down. Does that speed up when we get those intersections done? Because I mean, the traffic's gonna keep on increasing. We know that because the growth's going out that way too.
highway safety funds. So in this case, the number of accidents do not generate enough money to get state funds. So that's one of the things we're looking at. You can also do a state transportation program grant. You can apply for them, but usually these projects will not qualify for those. So
As part of it's called SS4A, Safe Streets and Highways for All. You have to have a county road action plan, county road safety plan before you're eligible for improvement. Our strategy here is we plan to take this corridor and apply for a federal grant to convert it to an urban, accomplish some multimodal goals as well as intersection goals. Now, one of the wild cards to that is the development plan for in and around Creative Homes. If all of a sudden something moves there, they have already submitted a traffic impact analysis to us. Their impact alone will force something to happen at A in New Richmond Way. And how we treat all our development partners is with fairness across the county. If they have negative impacts on a county highway intersection, we'd work with them to negate those facts as part of their development. So depending on how development occurs in and around New Richmond, you may see intersection enhancements much sooner.
I look out there too, it might be more than just housing. There might be retail in that corridor too, which is going to drive up traffic also. When they do this, do they look at growth? I mean, because we know the growth's going to be going there. I mean, when you look for these grants, do they look to the future too and not just look at today? Because you're saying you're talking about crashes, how many crashes, but how many would you be preventing if, you know, you move this up?
Correct. And we look at today's traffic as a guideline for what the future is. We're building our infrastructure to last 20 to 35 years. I mean, that's the goal. Bridges are much longer. So we're trying to, especially in and around New Richmond, if we build a road for what the traffic is today, by the time we get it built 2 years from now, we already have 4 to 5% more traffic on it. So we do plan for the future and we build this infrastructure for future growth.
With what Jim said, I think he's absolutely right. Creative Homes development is 198 acres. Those things along County Road A, which
And that's what we do. We work with, your staff as well, reviewing these traffic impact analysis. So if they came in and submitted us all 200 acres of single-family homes, we'd probably challenge them saying, we don't believe that's accurate. And they didn't do that. Obviously, they're working together with us as well. They're being good partners in submitting data showing a mixed-use development. So it's tough to do some of these TIAs on developments that are, 10 years out. But we do our best to forecast what that traffic's going to be.
Question. Now, this is obviously very busy. I worked at the hospital for 40 years. And just east of where A comes off of 64 and turns to the south there's the intersection of Hospital Road and 64. Work with the state because that intersection is a real mess too. Often for various accidents and stuff. But I'm just wondering, how do you work with, because that's a state road there, so that would be the state. Do you communicate with them too, or?
Absolutely. So we communicate with our state partners all the time. For an example, if I told you the number one intersection that we have no control over would be T and 64. We get complaints there, but the state is also looking at options there. We communicate with them, we highlight where our stress points are, we pass along citizen concerns, and I can tell you the state's responsive within the parameters that they have to work with. So they do a lot of what the highway safety improvement, which Greg mentioned, which unfortunately chases accidents. And unfortunately, that's just how the funding works through that program, is that you have to have accidents before you generate funding. So that program isn't always a viable option, but I can tell you, they do look at those, but a lot of it is accident driven.
why we hear that there's a
Well,
I wouldn't even make you answer that.
yeah, and we can't control the DOT, and I won't speak for them as far as, I can tell you they're partners though. When one of our legs of the system fail, all of us fail. There's no doubt about that, because when I-94 goes down, we can't hold traffic up anywhere else in this county if you've been part of any incident along I-94 with any shutdown for any period of time. So we all have to be partners in this.
I appreciate the information, and I can't wait to get this. Most of these intersections are actually. There's another intersection in our community that I think is extremely dangerous, and that's County Road.
I couldn't,
I've never ran.
yeah, I've never ran that intersection. And once again, you're talking about an intersection with a state highway.
Yep.
So we tend to focus, Greg and I tend to focus on county, town intersections. We do try to look at all intersections as far as the KAB accidents, just to be a good partner. But when we don't get to dictate the what happens at those intersections, we try to really focus our attention on more of what we can control.
I just have a quick question about, this is kind of off topic, but whatever. County Road K going eastbound. As you probably know, we got a substantial grant to put in multimodal trail on the north side of that. In our last Public Works Committee meeting, we were talking about the possibility of the county redoing County Road K simultaneously with the design work we've started on the trail system. So is there a possibility that that could be moved up because we got that grant? You could maybe move that project up?
So we submitted that section as part of what's called a Surface Transportation Program, urban program. So we did submit that portion of K for
Okay.
reconstruction under a federal program.
Okay.
We will not know the results of that program till most likely March.
Okay.
We are coordinating with you on design.
Yes,
We are
correct.
coordinating on construction. It would be nice
Very nice.
that all blend together. Now, if we are successful in STP, it's a little harder because the DOT would manage that let then. We don't get to locally let that. So
Right.
it could be a challenge, but we could still stage construction all within the same year. We could build it within that. Most likely it would have to be a separate let because you have a TAP and we
Yep.
have an STP. If we construct that with local forces, it's a little bit easier.
Are
So
the chances of you getting your STP grant better because we've got this TAP grant? Or crapshoot?
Considered an urban section and through there, so it's the
Yep.
For example, I don't know. Only a handful given out, so even though we put in for it,
Yeah,
the odds still hopeful.
okay.
So STP urban is kind of tricky in that you fall into different categories. So if you're not part of what's called an MPO, you have to go into a small scale urban and they don't award a lot of projects. So we're hopeful, but
Just
No.
curious.
it's 80%
It would be
funding,
really
so
helpful for both of us, I think, if we could get that done at the same time.
The only thing that can be tricky with pedestrian ways and paths is, as you aware, city right now, there's a Supreme Court case in the state of Wisconsin moving forward from Egg Harbor that is going to kind of dictate how sidewalks are handled in the state of Wisconsin as far as acquiring right of ways. So it is kind of tricky right now to plan, map that out.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Without the factors of the other developments. So we identified key development areas and built those uses in. The uses generate traffic, but as far as just background growth, 1% was used. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when it comes to traffic, it's a fair. And that's what we based the 1% on. We pulled data on various county highways and used that as a rough number. It can vary. It's so hard though. The new bridge went in and a lot of that data prior to the new bridge in 2017 you can throw out.
Well, thank you. Good information, and hopefully you can move up on these grants and get get the money here sooner.
We appreciate your time tonight, and if ever there's a way we can collaborate or you feel we can come up and answer some questions, we always work well with your staff, so we appreciate the
great.
time tonight.
That'd be great.
you.
Thank you.
We're gonna probably sneak out, so thank you very much.
Watch the game. Okay, next is authorization to solicit bids for 2024 street and utility projects. Eric?
Yeah, so last year we decided to take a year off from doing any street reconstruction and utility projects, to get more on a better timeline of bidding these projects out in the winter when contractors are looking for work and hopefully getting them started early in the spring, when the ground thaws. So in the 24 CIP, we identified, reconstruction of South Dakota Avenue and Minnesota Avenue from West First Street to West Fourth Street. We've now got the plans and specifications ready to go out for bids. So we're looking for authorization right now from council to go out for bidding. So the plan would be to put the documents out for bids in January, give the contractors a month to look at them, get their bids in, and then we would bring a recommendation back to Utility Commission and Council in February. The entire construction plans are included in your packet, so if you look through them and you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, or if you have any questions right now.
I'll make a motion to proceed with construction bids for the street and utilities project.
Second?
I have one question for you, Eric. We had one time talked about doing a road project in the southeast part of something that should be bid simultaneously to be helpful for the contractor, or won't that make any difference? Billmar?
Oh, Billmar? Yeah, Billmar's on the 25 schedule.
Okay,
So yeah, so the plan would be to design the project this coming summer and then bid it out next winter for 25.
thank you.
Other questions? Take your roll, please.
Alderman Rees?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Passes. Stormwater planning, RFP.
Yeah, so one of the additional things requirements we had plopped on us when we passed the 10,000 mark with the population is that we now become an MS4 community. So that adds a lot more regulations and reporting and requirements that we have to meet to fulfill this MS4 permit. So right now we're looking to possibly hire a consultant to help us with some of this planning. As part of that, we would also like them to reevaluate our stormwater utility rates. So those were originally created in 2005, and I believe there's been some abbreviated rate increases over time. Staff has in-house looked at those rates. There really hasn't been a full review of that utility since it was created in 2005. So as part of this planning, we would ask that they do a full reevaluation of the stormwater utility rates, where they should be at as far as the cost of the rates, and then also possibly the structure of how we facilitate those rates.
Questions on that? This is just go out and get some RFPs on it.
Yep, yeah, not authorizing to spend any money at this time. We'll go out and solicit some engineering firms and get some proposals from them.
I'll make a motion to approve the solicitation or request for proposal.
Second it.
Further discussion? If not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Rees?
Yes.
Passes. Electric substation circuit breakers purchase.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The next two agenda items are in regards to the electric substation upgrades that have been starting. This is a project that will span approximately 3 years, with completion being sometime in mid-2025. Earlier this year in September, we requested requested approval to move forward with an RFP for the circuit breakers for the substations. EPS is the engineering firm who we have assisting us in this project, and they placed the specifications for public notice in October. We received back one bid for the circuit breakers. Originally, when we first looked at the project scope, we had a budget of about $410,000. When that budget was updated just before we issued the debt for it, we had budgeted $450,000. The one bid that we did receive came in at $425,425.56. So slightly under the last budget amount. We did discuss this with the Utility Commission at their December 6th meeting. They did make the recommendation to move it to City Council for approval. So this evening, we are seeking council authorization to move forward with the purchase pending legal review of the terms and conditions.
I'll make a motion to approve the Siemens substation circuit breakers in the amount of $425,000.
Second?
Second over here?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Was there only one bid on that?
Yep.
There was, we just received one bid.
Any other discussion? If not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Passes. Next item, electric substation transformer purchase.
So similar process as what we discussed with the circuit breakers. This RFP EPS put together and issued it in October after the approval from both City Council and the Utility Commission to issue the RFP. We did receive just one bid for this as well from Virginia Transformer Corporation with a transformer total of just over $1.4 million, which is above our budget amount of $1.1 million as well. We did talk at length in receiving just one bid for this transformer. And in discussions with EPS, we feel confident in moving forward with Virginia Transformer Corporation. EPS has significant experience with them in installing these transformers. Also, given kind of some of the market condition, the reason why we feel we got one bid is that we are a smaller segment of the market, you know, kind of doing this project on a smaller scale when we're competing with larger utilities out there, such as Excel and things of that nature, that are ordering 20 transformers at one time. For VTC is actually in a growth phase in their company as well, so they are starting and ramping up a new manufacturing. In order to do that, they also pre-bought a lot of raw materials, so they have the capacity that maybe other transformer manufacturers don't have, which is why we received the bid. Also looking at just where the cost is, we do have contingencies built into the project cost, and we're hoping that as the project progresses, there's some opportunities that we can offset in other areas, and also pending the final disposition of the transformers that we are taking out of service, there could be some salvage value associated with those. So at this point in time, the Utility Commission, in our discussion on December 6th, also is recommending approval of the purchase of the transformer. And this one is also currently in review with legal counsel on the terms and conditions.
To approve?
I'll make that motion to approve the Virginia Transformer Corporation bid for the transformer.
Second it.
Discussion?
I think just one more thing to mention, you know, because this came in a little higher than what we had initially budgeted, Utilities Commission of refurbishing, and we can't.
Good, if we, you know, when we, I mean, if we took that out of service and we had them yet, when the economy changed a little bit more, do you think it'd be worthwhile maybe looking to see something?
everything is so far behind, lead time is just.
Once it catches up, maybe it won't be, I don't know. Take the roll, please.
Alderman Volkert? Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Freeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gardner?
Yes.
Motion passes. Police vehicle purchases.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you may or may not know, Public Safety authorized us to go out for bids. We've got 2 squad cars that have been main duty squads now for over 3 years. They're starting to hit the end of their useful life. They're well over 100,000 miles. We're starting to see some significant repairs. So we did get authorization from Public Safety to go out for bid. Ford is actually doing some retooling, so they are not taking orders for any more 2024s. They are open for 2025s, but probably wouldn't come in till late in the year. So we didn't receive any bids from Ford or Chevy. We did receive bid from Bernard's Northtown here in New Richmond with a purchase price of $40,695 with a maintenance package of $900, and that's our recommendation from the police department, is to go with the Bernard's Northtown bid for 2 fully marked patrol cars. Purchase price of $41,595. That includes the warranty described in your packet, and then it would also be requesting an additional $12,000 for the graphics and install of the new equipment. We'll reuse what we can from the 2 outgoing vehicles. However, these are the 3rd vehicles that equipment has been on. So it's starting to get kind of agey. We're not exactly sure what we're going to be able to reuse at this point and what we're not. And then also the equipment in those squads, some of the equipment is getting to be 15 years old. Preliminary breath test machines and the stinger spikes and some of the other equipment that's in there, the computers are dated. So we'd be requesting an additional $13,000 to replace and upgrade that equipment as well. The CIP for this year allotted $72,000, $62,000 from the budget, and an approximate $10,000 for trade-in. So we should come in well under that price. Like I had my math on here somewhere. But it'd be the $41,595 for the vehicle plus the $12,000 for the changeover and graphics, and then the $13,000 for necessary equipment.
That's
And
2
I can
vehicles.
take any questions.
That's 2 vehicles, right?
2 vehicles, correct.
And that, for the graphics and that's the total price for both of them then?
Well, it'd be per each vehicle, yes. So it'd be the $41,595 plus the additional $12,000 and $13,000, $25,000
All times 2.
times 2. Which was covered in the CIP for 2024.
The trade-in value is times 2 also?
Well, yeah, right now the dealerships we couldn't get trade-ins from any of the dealerships just because the market's fluctuating and we don't know what the lead times are gonna be when these vehicles are gonna come in. So they're a little reluctant right now to give us trade-in values until we kind of have a date of when those new vehicles are gonna be coming in.
And we have no use for the vehicles?
I don't believe so. I think they've run their course.
Any idea when they're coming in, to give you any
If,
approximate?
if we let them know tomorrow that it's been approved, I was told we're probably looking at sometime after May 1st. Or they would be coming in, but we won't know more until, right now everybody's kind of scrambling for end of the year bids and getting in line, so we won't know more until we have approval and they can actually get us in line.
Are you satisfied with the Durangos?
Yeah, I mean, we have one current Durango in our fleet right now, that will probably be one of the squads that goes down the road next year. That car has been holding up fine.
I know you had some issues in the past with.
Yep, yeah, and I mean, we've talked to other municipalities that have ordered the Durangos and it's probably like any of the cars out there, you get mixed reviews.
Okay.
So,
Question and discussion? We have a motion to approve the purchase of the Durango package, with the package.
I'd make that motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Roll, please.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
A motion passes. Next is certified survey map application for Sean Bird.
This application was considered by the Plan Commission at their most recent meeting. If you recall, this property was attached from the town of Star Prairie to the city of New Richmond earlier this fall. The property is be southeast at the intersection of County Road K and North 4th Street, so kitty corner to the Challenge Incarceration facility. And Sean Bird is the current owner of the property. There's currently one single-family home, and he's looking to subdivide the property to create, you can see what are shown on the map is Lot 1 and Lot 2, so that there could be a twin home on the property. So this was reviewed by staff in the Plan Commission. They recommend approval of the certified survey map with one condition, and that condition is in regards to an access easement. So anytime you have a shared driveway, you want to make sure that property owner A has permission to be driving across property owner B's property. So that would get recorded before there'd actually be occupancy and people actually residing there.
The access will come off 185th Avenue then yet, where it is now?
Yes, that'd be the current plan, yeah. So,
Or
yeah.
County Road K.
Right.
Depending on what you want to call it.
Yeah, a few different names out there, yeah.
Because of the way the map was
North
written, that's
Fourth.
why I called it, yeah. It's got a number.
Be North 4th forever.
Questions on this? Not,
Just to be, do we have a motion?
yeah, I'm gonna ask for the motion.
I will make the motion to approve these.
Second.
Now, question?
No, just a comment. They will be a water customer to the city, but not necessarily an electric customer?
That'd be correct, yeah.
Okay.
So they would be connecting to city water and sewer, but if the existing house is already served by another utility provider, we likely would not be able to serve them for electric.
Can the owner request?
Yep.
No, they wouldn't be able to in this case. It gets into territorial disputes. There's certainly process whether in some areas there can be customer choice. If the property is not currently served and both utility providers are within a reasonable distance. But if property is already served by one utility, they couldn't just make the switch. So
In the memo, it says that they could, but
so
utilities
like
and
for example, the question has come up in the
utilities.
past with like New Richmond High School is served by St. Croix Electric.
Right.
They couldn't just make the choice to say we just want to switch to New Richmond Utilities. Once that utility provider is servicing them, customer can't just make a switch at their own discretion.
I'm just reading in the memo. New Richmond Utilities will provide a quote if extension is requested. Okay, so they can request it.
They can. They
Okay.
can certainly request it. Whether or not we will be able to serve them, though,
That's-
is up for, yep.
Okay, I see what you mean.
James? Got a question. James Place, who's that served by?
City?
Yes, yep, so those would be the twin homes kind of the southeast of this property?
Yeah. So if the property's next to it, they still can't,
Not necessarily, no. You might have an old farmhouse that's been served by a cooperative or another company for decades, and so just because you might service property right adjacent to that doesn't necessarily mean you,
okay.
yeah.
Any other questions? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Motion passes. 2023 third quarter tourism funding recommendations.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We had the third quarter tourism meeting last week. One of the things all the financial aspects were pointed out in your packet, but I wanted to talk about the fact that on November 1st, the Tourism Committee hosted a marketing seminar. They brought together people who have previously been awarded funds and then also people who might be bringing tourists to the area in the future and apply for funds to give new ideas of how to invite people into our community. That is one of the things they're looking for funding. It was for $80, but, so it's not the biggest ask this quarter, but it was really great. We had more than 20 people here. We had speakers from Wisconsin Department of Tourism and Eau Claire, Visit Eau Claire. And tourism is doing some really fun things. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of the marketing seminar. Essentially, the request is for $29,301.97 for the chamber, $2,585.16 for Halos, and then the tourism marketing seminar of $80.16. There will be a future request off of this meeting for the Heritage Center that will come forward at the next meeting as well, but just for those three at this time. And
Wait.
Pete or I are happy to answer any questions on any of the applications.
Motion on the floor first. I'll make a motion to approve the tourism recommendations and the amount shown.
I'll second that. So the total funds after the 29, 25, and $80 is 81,000?
No, that was what's available
That's
before.
prior to?
Prior to,
There was
yeah.
like 49,000 left over then to move to the next quarter, approximately.
Yep, and there are some applications that we will see in the fourth quarter. That's where you might see some sporting associations, and then also there are, historically, the city and the Parks Department have a few that come forward during that time as well. And one more from the
holidays.
Heritage Center.
Hometown holidays.
Hometown holidays will be coming still, yep. And I don't know if Scary Park or other ones that we've seen historically will come in by that time. And that, you'll see all of those in the March meeting.
Questions? Hear a motion to approve the 2023 third quarter tourism funding recommendations.
I have a motion from Pete and a second from Craig.
We were in discussion, Jim.
I lost the discussion.
That's okay. I got you.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Weidmeyer,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
City calendar 2024.
So.
Oh, you
wanna
want to do
start?
it this
Yeah,
time?
Go for it.
How about we go together? 1, 2, 3. Every year we bring forward the calendar for the following year for council to review. All of the meetings still need to be noticed. And so this is somewhat kind of just what we do for the year because there will be changes, but a lot of these do stay the same. And so we're looking for this motion to approve with the understanding that we will review it each month and each meeting.
Hear a motion to approve the city calendar for 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weidmeyer.
Yes.
A motion passes. 2024 schedule of fees.
You want to do this one, Noah?
All yours.
Oh.
Happy to chime in.
We also, the schedule of fees will come to you a few times throughout the year as a fee might need to change for various reasons. You'll notice on the resolution that was in the packet, there aren't a lot of changes. The changes are in yellow. The recycling change is based on the contract that you approved at a previous meeting. The other ones are in general increases that correlate to costs that have changed to the city that we're passing on to the user. One example would be the cost of the cards for fingerprinting. The police department has seen an increase, so that went from $6 to $7, and other things like that. But I don't know, in your review, if you have any questions on specific fees, I'm happy to share those.
Generality, you're saying that the fees that we're showing an increase are basically offsetting the fees that we're experiencing.
In some cases, they're offsetting administrative costs. So in some cases, that might be a high increase in staff time or use of staff equipment or purchasing of items for it.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 122303. Schedule of fees.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Passes. Appointment of election officials for 2024, 2025.
Who thought the most wonderful time of the year was the holidays? But it's elections. So every other December, I bring forward a list of election officers. It's interesting how this becomes compiled. It is our current election officers who have said that they would like to move forward in this next election year full of 4 elections. Also on here are election officials who have been nominated by a political party, both the Democratic and Republican parties of St. Croix County submitted a list to me. In all cases, every election official is still trained by the clerk's office and meets all of the requirements of an election judge. And so the list of names here are people who have indicated that they're willing to serve over the next 2 years. It does not mean they will work at every election. So sharing it with you is part of our public way of sharing the list.
Motion to approve the election officials.
I'll make the motion to approve them.
Second.
Any discussion? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Motion passes. Any communication?
I have one comment about our election officials. I thought it was
Yeah.
awesome that we have
And that's just by chance. I did nothing for that, but you're welcome.
Already submitted people to us.
I know.
I'm gonna let her take the credit for that.
I'll take all the credit, yeah.
Any communication or miscellaneous?
I just want to congratulate some parade winners in our group. The Electrics float and the Public Works float both won trophies for the hometown holiday. I'm not going to say who won which one, but Public Works is a little sore about it. And then also we had a great turnout of staff who were ringing the bells for Salvation Army, so thank you to all of them. And lastly, at the end of this week, tax bills will go out in the mail. And just as a reminder, the collection is different this year. That goes directly to the St. Croix County Treasurer. The return envelopes will be included with the tax statements, as well as instructions on how to pay online or in person.
Anything else?
That's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve for everyone.
Yeah, and there have been a few people who've stopped in already, and it's going smoothly.
When will our tax come out?
They will be mailed out at the end of the week. They're available online right now. Yep.
When does our new procedure go for all the money going to the county? Is that next 25?
Nope, starting now.
So all the money goes to the county?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. They have to share some of it with us then.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying. I just wanted to know what the process was.
Yep.
So when people ask, they don't send money to the city, they send all of it to the county.
Correct.
Because
Right.
people will ask.
I gotta wait for Craig to be done.
I thought he was. Great.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Senator Staff Schultz. He presented a bill increasing training funds for police departments across the state of Wisconsin. And I and Chief Dan Orr from the Hammond Police Department went down and testified last week at a Senate hearing. And looks like there's some pretty good bipartisan support for that, which would increase our state reimbursement. It would actually double it for our training funds, which would be a huge step in the right direction. So just letting you know that that's going through the motions, so.
Is this new
Thanks for going
training?
down there too.
Yeah, is this new training or?
No, this is, the state mandates that every officer have a minimum of
Right.
24 hours of continuing ed, but they only pay us they reimburse the city $160 per officer. Death investigation training alone is around $2,000. So when we're sending people to training, you know, we're
Losing money.
Losing money, but they're gonna double that to $320 is the ask. And then we're hoping that that's kind of the beginning of increasing those training funds, because it's been woefully under budgeted for, and they're switching around where the money's coming from, so it's actually gonna be there. Right now, they're operating at around a $40 million deficit on that. So it's gonna be a little more secure financial reimbursement to the city and the police department for those training dollars spent, which would help.
Thank you for going down there and taking the time to go down there. Appreciate it. Nothing else, hear a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we're adjourned.
This conference is no longer being recorded.